Sidebar, you ready? I'm so glad you do that now.
As soon as you're ready, I'll hit it.
I am ready. Are you ready, Brian? All right, welcome everyone. Regular board meeting to commence following the committee of the whole. Please, I'm going to call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands,
liberty and justice for all. It's like good to hear Dan in the back rows. So, all right, trustee Campion via Zoom,
Present.
trustee Hopkins,
Here.
trustee Kulat,
Present.
trustee Faber,
Here.
Ted Kamek is excused, and trustee Gant.
Here.
All right, open meeting compliance.
Yes, it was posted on Friday at 4:09.
Thank you. Any change in the approval of sequence? With that, I'm going to open it up to citizens' comments. Please, if you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record and try to limit it to 3 minutes, please. And Mr. McTiernan, you're the first one. Hello.
Hello. John Michael McTiernan, 6633 Green Bay Road, Kenosha, Wisconsin, 52142. As you may know, I represent Steve Dunn, the owner of Auto Truck Equipment and Repair, Chad Cantwell, the owner of Wilmot State Stop, and now Mark Rogers, the owner of Vendors Bar and Grill. All three of these are small family operated businesses in the village. All three are being wrongfully targeted by your village fire inspector and now building inspector as a result of overreaching, untruthful, and what we believe is unethical acts of each. Your village, through their fire department, now outsourced building inspector, have attempted to wrongfully shut down and close these businesses. I hope the board will take time to allow us to address these matters. And part of the question, part of the reason I'm here for citizens' comments is I want the board to be able to accept our request to come before on each one of these with requests to go through the issues they've had. They've attempted to sit down with the village inspector, the fire inspector, the building inspector, your village administrator to have their matters addressed individually to no avail. And all they're looking for is a guidance of what exactly can they do. As you know, Steve Dunn, owner of Auto Truck Repair, all he wants to do is be able to install his boat on his parking lot. He's being told he can't. He wants to be able to install a fuel burning furnace in his property line. He's being told he can't. All he wants to do is install the containers to be able to sell fuel in his property. He's being told he can't. He wants to install a new overhead door. He's being told he can't. I don't understand why. And he can't get answers. So I'm going to bring it to the board. The same with Chad Cantwell. He's been told he can't have a furnace or a grill, charcoal grill that allows him to cook steaks on his grill that's been there for decades. He's told can't. What's next? Is he going to be told he's going to lose his occupancy because he doesn't pave his parking lot, doesn't put an elevator on the second floor, doesn't make his ADA compatible bathrooms? And now we're dealing with Mark Rogers, owner of Vendors. We know what happened. You probably know what happened last week. Fire inspector went out there and shut his business down. Called the police department, called the fire department, said that he had a parking unsafe fire condition because of a line that was on his building and literally closed his business down. All of it was untrue. I mean, sadly, what happened is there was a car accident by a drunk driver in July of 2022 that caused the pole outside his building to be destroyed. It bent his lateral. He immediately hired his electrical inspector to look at the problem to say, what do I need to do? It's got a slight bent on it. Is it safe? When Energy showed up, they repaired the pole. They looked at the situation. They restored the power. And they said, you should get it looked at, but it's safe. It's bent, but it's safe. Instead, on 3 o'clock last week on Wednesday, your fire inspector was out there, took pictures of it, sent it to the building inspector, and said to him, you need to close your building down because this is a fire safety issue. Brought 2 sheriff's officers out there, brought in We Energies, and tried to shut his business down. Luckily, calmer heads prevailed. The people that showed up for the accident said, we were here in July. We know this didn't just happen. This happened 7 months ago. Long story short, he's working with the insurance company. The We Energies updated the police records to report that his pole was bent and he has the ability now to get this fixed. The problem is your fire inspector, your building inspector say he has till tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning to get it done or he's closed. The parts alone are gonna take weeks to get in on this project and maybe a month or so before it's installed. There's no working with the inspectors. There's no working with your fire inspectors in a logical business-like manner. Instead, it's simply an attack of these small businesses. That's the common thread. It's just an attack. What do? In my opinion, in my clients' opinions, we need to go back to having the county involved in overseeing inspections and zoning and some logical process by which these business owners can operate. And that's what we're looking for. The only thing I do have to add is I'd just like you to hear the audio recording of what occurred last week that shut down my client's business. And then people won't have anything more to say. So, sure, Mark,
Please.
Sorry about that. Mark Rogers, 7819 288th Avenue, Salem, Wisconsin. Here's the audio.
2023, 14, 53, 10.
This is the guy, sir. Can you generate me a life safety call? 1 second. Okay. It's not easy to get toned out. I am standing under this. How to speak up to the call. The engine really, where are you at? I am that's a short. Yeah. Okay. 409 North Water Street. Yes, I'm aware. We just make sure you know the TSP to do. I do. I also think we introduced. All right, 1 second. TSP. All right, what's up? We had multiple reports, different reports that there is a electrical service that is leaning down. It's causing not able by lead. And it's in too close to proximity to the building and causing a where it is so we're going to go back to the building and close it and get the energy by power. That's what the building department. So it's resolving building department reopening the building. All right, so appearing in here for you, CNC responding, and I'm going to be answering the response for you as well. All right, can you put me on thing there? You are on the update. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
That's the only time.
Mhm.
So the only thing I'd ask is that with the guidance of my attorney, we all sit down, resolve this and, try to move forward in a manner before, if my business gets shut down unlawfully or whatever that went on that day. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Steve Dunn,
I have nothing more to add.
thank you. Chad Cantwell, okay. Anyone else that didn't make the list that would like to speak for citizens? All right, with that, Mike Kulat.
Mr. Cantwell, how long have you owned the stage stop, you yourself?
5 years.
And in that time, I'm referencing the charcoal grill fire suppression thing. I'm not sure what it's called. What was the last date of certification on that?
I don't have it.
Okay.
It was not necessary.
Certification for that suppression system wasn't necessary?
Suppression system is not necessary.
Okay. Okay, all right. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, then I'm going to close the citizens' comments. Move into committee of the whole. No action will be taken. Discussion only on these items. Number one, use of UTVs, ATVs on village roads. Ron?
Yeah, I brought this up and we've been throwing this around for 3 or 4 months. I would like to see an ordinance written basically in the same basis of the golf cart ordinance we already have written. Okay, and at 35 miles or under, I mean, we have the golf cart ordinance written already. Just copy that, the same thing, but the only other exception I would have is to make this year round, golf carts as well as ATVs.
Does anybody have any comments?
I do.
Go ahead, Mike.
We tried this once. Remind me, Mike, how many years ago? 3?
She said she can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. How many years ago did we try this?
I believe it was 16, 17, 14.
I believe so.
Was it 14?
Back when we were still a town.
That's correct.
Yeah,
And we did put it out for referendum and didn't pass back then. Majority of people didn't want it then. I could go either way on this. I know I got a lot of heat over it last time because I was for it. My only thing is the golf cart ordinance, we were supposed to register, and I think we've got 6 that have registered to date. That's the whole year of 22. I would like to get that under control first, where people are registering, obeying the rules there. And then move on to the next step of something bigger or better.
well, I want to interject, but if we had somebody to enforce our ordinances, what we have written. I mean, I've been in Silver Lake and.
We're going to get to that, Ron, though.
Okay, but I'm saying right now, if we had somebody who would enforce the ordinances that we have written as far as golf carts on the streets or whatever, you know, if they don't have their proper signage or whatever in the permits, okay, they should be able to get a ticket. But I know we're gonna get to the ordinance in a couple minutes here, but if we had somebody to kick this in the butt, I guess is what I want to say, you know, we would probably have more registered with this thing, whole thing.
We're a big village, okay? We got almost 15,000 people and we have we got state roads, we got a lot of county roads. I go up north to my friend's house in Necedah and they're running ATVs all the time. I think it's perfect for that rural atmosphere. I don't think it's perfect for Salem Lakes.
But we have 22 or how many different subdivisions do we have in this village, you know, and what it would give us, and what the amount of lakes we have.
I understand that, and we allowed the golf carts. And I see the kids on them, and I understand there's an issue with enforcement. I'm agreeing with you on that. However, they're gonna do it no matter what. And you're gonna see these little kids running ATVs, which they're doing already, down the road.
Not what we're looking at, is even as far as golf carts. Yeah, I was in Silver Lake, there's a kid drives his mother to take him to grade school.
School, yeah.
And then turns around and she drives the golf cart back. I mean, if we don't have anybody to enforce anything, what the hell are you gonna do? So.
I don't know. Dennis, how do you feel about ATVs in the village?
We had it on a referendum back then in 2017 or whenever it was, 14.
14 years ago. Correct?
No, I think it was 2014.
2014.
But
And it was a close vote and we had a number of meetings about it and there were valid points on both sides. Naturally, people who want to operate them say they're going to operate them legally. And I just know that isn't the case. I live on a county road and I have them go past my house frequently. They come from Valmar subdivision. They go through the airport at Camp Lake and then in through Camp Lake. And it's dangerous on a road like that. It's very dangerous on a road like that. In a subdivision in Silver Lake, that community, I think it could be done safely. Although I know with only 6 people that have registered their golf carts, I agree that we've got to enforce the ordinance. And I think if we write a couple of tickets, then people will start registering.
Would you be interested in another referendum?
Oh, definitely, I would.
You would be interested in that? How about you fellas? Dan? Bill?
I'd like to see us get control over the golf carts. I know it's a problem area where I live. Being unregistered. We've had kids as young as 6 and 7 on golf carts going down the road. They're on mini bikes going down the road. There is zero enforcement because I've called numerous occasions and they get a warning by the sheriff's deputies and off they go. 3 days later, here the same kids come.
You have to be 16 with a driver's license, by the way.
So I'm in favor of the golf carts, but they have to get registered. We have to ensure they have liability insurance like we originally discussed. I'd be in favor of the ATV, UTVs more so in the winter than the summer, only because of the ice fishing out on the lake. But I first want to see somebody getting control over these golf carts on the roads. It's a matter of time before a car hits a golf cart or vice versa.
Dan, do you have any comment?
Well, I've expressed my comment on both golf carts and ATVs a number of times, and I haven't changed my position on it, either one of them.
Okay.
And, but it, I don't want to talk about it now because we're talking about it later in the committee of a whole, and that is enforcement. So I don't see the purpose of trying to push through another ordinance just to tick off a box that, look at me, I've done something here. We need to have our ordinances that are enforced. And right now we're only talking about ATVs, but there are other ordinances that are not being enforced. And when the ones that are being enforced, we're getting a lot of pushback on. So I think before we put anything more on our plate, let's address those issues first. And, if we push everything else off, such as the ATVs and UTVs, until we get this all sorted out, so be it. Let's do it. Push it off.
All right, thank you. So we got, anybody interested in a referendum? Are you both, or, oh, you probably are too with pushing it off.
I'd be interested in a referendum because the community has changed since 2014. If you say it was razor thin back then, see what it says now.
And Mike?
I'd be okay with a referendum. I would, just to get a feel for what our constituents would like.
And we could have a non-binding referendum
Right.
in April. Could we get that on the April ballot?
Right.
We're in early enough?
Madam President,
Check with the county because we're doing that right now.
Yes,
Like
Dan?
tomorrow, there's things due.
before we talk about putting anything on the referendum, what are we going to put in the referendum? What's the language?
Well,
Allowing us to have ATVs? I mean, that's an open-ended question that, that wouldn't be appropriate for either side.
No.
But we already have an ordinance regarding to golf carts, okay? What I'm asking, what I would like to see is the ATV or UTV ordinance, that's basically the same as golf carts, okay? But year round.
Well, Mr. Gant, you've already changed it. By saying year round, that's completely different. So is that the language that you want on a referendum? I'm not for
Yes,
year round.
yes, it is.
Not for year round. I neither vehicle. It's bad enough as it is. If we're gonna cater to someone that goes out to the lake, then that's a different story, a different subject, a different area. But if you give someone that lives in a subdivision that has no lake, but yet you give them access because you want to give people access to a lake, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you on that.
Well, that's your prerogative.
Mhm.
Yes, it is, Mr. Gant, and I appreciate your answer.
All right, where do you want to go with this, guys?
I don't think we have time enough to get it on a,
You don't think so either, Shannon?
Can I let you know tomorrow?
Mhm.
if we have time, I would be in favor of a referendum in April. But the referendum would be very simple. Would you be in favor of ATV, UTVs? Don't put a time limit on when, just general statement. Would you be interested ATV, UTV on village roads?
Because it's going to be advisory anyway. Right?
Right.
Well, I would make it advisory until we get our ducks in a row, but
But putting something as vague as that as a referendum, that's not going to give people the ability to make a judgment that's educated. That's just, you could do a straw poll, give you the same results. Why spend the money on a referendum when that's all you're going to look for is a straw poll?
Well, if you're
Put some
interested in a
meat
straw
into the
poll, let's do
referendum so
it.
people could make a decision.
well, okay. All right, we have, Ron, would you be in favor of,
Without a doubt, on a referendum, yes.
so there's four, at least four for sure on a referendum choice. If we can do it, if we can do it, we'd have to meet again and then decide what we wanted to put on it with our attorney also.
Can we just resurrect the old one and see how we worded that? I think that was.
Well, and we can look at that, but let's find out if we can even put it on,
No, I agree.
because that's April. We have a primary in February, which obviously we wouldn't put it on that. We would put on April agenda.
Something tells me we have to have the language approved and submitted by the end of January for an April vote.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Let's see what tomorrow brings. Mike will be in touch with all of us, and if it is allowed, we're gonna have to meet again to get the correct language.
Which shouldn't be a problem, correct?
No,
Agreed, I'll just look up what we did at the last referendum.
yeah, specify that it's on the village roads. It wouldn't be on the highway or the county, like the Gulf.
It's basically copying the golf cart ordinance.
You have to have a license. You have to be 16 or older
16, just-
and have a driver's license and so on and so on. Let's see what we got. Let's Shannon find out and we'll go from there. Is that good for today?
Yes.
Good with me.
All right, and Mike will be in touch, and Shannon and I'll talk tomorrow. All right,
Yeah, whatever.
all right. Number 2, village-owned property sales. Mike gave this to you last month about whether or not you wanted to hire a realtor,
I wasn't at the entire meeting last month.
and what was in an email, and that's the route I think we need to take. We hire a realtor and put these on.
I'm good with
He
that.
said the prices aren't going for what they should be going for on that surplus site. Mike?
And I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. Mike, do you remember on SA, that triangular piece next to
Oh,
Next to the lake.
Zubers?
Yes.
Yeah, I forget the dimensions of it. But we have a piece of property over on Age, just across from the old deli or whatever it was.
mhm.
I think you're all familiar with it, but it's
Mhm.
on the channel. But I have a,
Can somebody give him a microphone?
We can barely hear you.
Is there any way of turning it up, Brian? No, I apologize. Go ahead.
I don't want to shout at my fellow board members. Nothing I can do about it. I mean, I'm not gonna sit up and
Okay,
scream.
okay.
I'm not
Okay,
afraid.
Go ahead.
Anyway, that triangular piece, the owner of the property to the north would like to buy that. And we've talked about taking that little sliver off of it. The only thing I need is what we need is a dollar amount. Yeah,
Is it the sliver they're interested in or the whole lot?
The sliver.
Sliver?
sliver, yeah. Bottom line, if you remember, and I don't have it with me, his driveway, I think, comes out onto our property. And he just wants to be able to square that up, so his
Mhm.
driveway and everything is all his, so he owns everything.
We wouldn't need a realtor for that.
No,
Yeah.
not for that one. And we did get a listing, we did get the assessment price at the current assessment price from Rocco. There's a couple of them we had thought they were a little higher and they weren't as high as we thought and
Well, I would tell you, the market is way down,
way down.
so.
Well, I still think that we should hire a realtor, get these off and moving, and see if we can get rid of them. You know,
Then we need to do an RFP.
Mhm. Would you guys be in favor of that?
So who's gonna make the authority or the shot to hire a realtor? I mean, what realtor are we gonna hire for this?
I just said, we'll have to do RFPs. And we'll have to get them and look at them and see who's got the best program for us. Every realtor's got their own different program, so
Mhm.
put it out there. Anybody interested in selling these properties and what are you gonna charge us? We'll look at the RFPs and I've done it for other communities in the past. I've done it for this, for the town and the village. I had no charge in the past. I can't do it today.
No, we don't expect you to,
No.
but thank you.
I'll get an RFP for the board.
Diane.
Yes.
Maybe people that are here, let them know that we did investigate doing this through, what is it, the state?
The state surplus, what is it? Mike,
That
what-
it, Mike?
Wisconsin municipality surplus, and we have about 10 or more properties. We have asked the adjoining owners on either side of the property that we're looking to sell perhaps. And the park commission has also looked at these properties and deemed whether or not they want the village to keep them or sell them, if they might have a future use for the park itself. And we came up with a price with Rocco, our assessor for the village. And with the fluctuations and everything else going on with the real estate business, we looked at Mike looked at some of the surplus prices and they were really down. And we thought maybe we could do better with our own realtor. That's where we are. That's where we are with these properties. We have a few big ones here on Highway 83 and we got some little triangles like the one that Mike Kulat just alluded to was just 15 feet at the road or so and a few more feet at the channel. And some of them are definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? For the property owner to purchase it, perhaps, but a lot of them had said no. Some of them had said yes, but I think that we're not in the real estate business and we should just hire somebody. So we're going to put an RFPD and a RFP out and we'll find out the best one we feel. And then you can bring them to us and we'll choose one.
This all came to pass because a lot of these properties were listed as parks. And there was just some place to put that property identification. It was might be a lift station for our sewer or something. So that's how it all started. We started looking at, we've got an awful lot of areas that are identified as parks. What really are they? And then come to find out there are some saleable parcels in that inventory. And then some that aren't really saleable, or maybe the neighbor might be interested in it or whatever. We've been doing this for quite some time. It isn't just something, well, let's call a realtor. It's
Oops, where'd it go?
we've looked at it quite thoroughly.
Guys, for reference, you could look on your past emails, December 5th. And-
Last year.
December 5th, a few weeks ago. And Mike had written to you about the different parcels and their numbers. Why does that do that? All right, I'll just go down. One moment, please. The sliver, Zubers, the 20 foot, okay, 20 foot, oh, it's 0 at the road, 20 feet at the channel. But on, if you look December 5th, you will see that email that Mike sent to us a few weeks ago. All right, any other questions on that, comments? All right. Next one, number 3, Kenosha County Sheriff's Department Enforcement of Village Ordinances. let's work with that first. Ron?
Yeah, I brought this up. I had a situation in Silver Lake where there were two kids on mini bikes sitting on the side of the road right by Riverview School. And I had to really deviate my lane of traffic to get around these guys. So I went around by the firehouse and there just happened to be a county squad sitting there with two deputies in it. And I explained what I just seen with these two kids on mini bikes. And I asked the officers, can we do something about this? And I didn't tell him who I was or anything. He just says, nope, we can't do nothing about it. That was it. Okay, so I guess my question is can we direct the sheriff department to enforce something?
Yes.
Let it be traffic, let it be these kids ripping around in Silver Lake or Camp Lake or wherever. But can we have them enforce something?
Before the merge, when we were still the village of Salem Lakes and Kenosha Sheriff had just started to take over for the old Silver Lake Police Department, the board back then put together a list of what they wanted to see addressed first by the sheriff's department, prioritized list. And I would suggest we go down that road as well, indicating, however, that these golf carts, mini bikes, whatever the case, be somewhere at the top of that list as well, because that is a safety hazard. I mean, it's a starting point, because we can't expect them to take the entire ordinance book because they'd be at one side of the village for the next 3 years.
I guess my question is, can we give the sheriff's department some direction of what we want in
Of course.
That's we've done bad, yes.
And we need to do it.
Might be time to do
Without a
it.
doubt.
We've done it, maybe time to do it again.
Is there anyone, nobody's here to speak for them and
Maybe supervisory.
no supervisors? Okay, okay. I know we had asked for one.
You know, we may want to also invite the new sheriff and kind of
Tell them where we're
let
at.
him know what our concerns are as well.
I think it'd be a great idea.
I think it's a great idea too.
Okay,
Ron.
but yeah, I'm on.
All right.
Oh, my.
The second part of this, number 3 was the village property maintenance officer's procedures for enforcement. I had talked to John Carrier, our, ordinance enforcer, and, you know, I had an incident where a resident was complaining about a property. And I said, let's do something about it. And he said, no. And he was following the rules because the board has decided that we will only follow up on an ordinance complaint if it's written on a complaint form. I felt that we should be able to, as the village board, I felt that I should be able to complain. I drive around, other people drive around. I don't want to put my name on it, but at this time I just said, just get this guy's car out of his yard. Just get it out of his. He said, John had told me that he was interested in going out and doing his own scoping and looking at properties. He said, but he would need board approval.
Why wouldn't you want to put your name on the complaint? I've done it.
Well, I have.
I've done it on multiple occasions because there are some senior citizens who are concerned with retribution. I have no problem if it's a valid issue of signing that form and being the complainant per se.
Would you turn your neighbor in too?
Nope, because I go out and cite it first, and if I see what the neighbor is seeing and I agree with them, then it becomes my complaint.
Well, I mean, obviously I put my name on this one because I did complain. However, I don't always because situations. Would the board be, you know, susceptible to that, where they would go?
Well, the biggest thing is if you file, it's just, so we have to come in and file a complaint, okay? But does John Carrier go out and drive down our village road?
He said some of the
Okay,
blatant
so
ones.
He sees something in violation, I mean, does he stop and, you know, maybe the old Eddie would put a red tag on a vehicle that no plates on it or whatever? I
No,
mean, does he do that?
not.
This is what, I mean,
This is what the board had said not to do.
Well, why?
Except for complaints.
I mean, we have the policy where if you want to complain, you have to come into the village hall and file it.
Correct.
Or you can get it on a computer too.
Correct,
And file it.
correct.
Sign it. But I mean, we have this guy hired as far as an ordinance enforcer per se, right? Or just property maintenance.
Why do we do the same thing we're doing with the sheriff then? Put together a priority list. We're asking him to drive around, and if he sees the blatant issues based on that prioritized list, which for me would be unregistered junks sitting on from the front of the garage forward to the street. Because I think that's the way our ordinance reads. It has to be from the front of the garage back.
I believe the way it's written, they can't, the vehicle gotta be registered
Right,
Period,
anywhere on the property.
okay.
period, unless they put a tarp on it.
And again, the
I'd
board-
rather have it unregistered than a damn tarp.
Again, was the one that actually talked with us. Where to come from, Paddock Lake.
Yep.
And it worked extremely well, because what would happen, I think at one point we had a chicken complaint over the neighbor's chickens. And the neighbor didn't want to get involved with the neighbor, and we enforced it at the time. Then the same neighbor that complained filed or signed the petition so that people could keep their chickens, but then wanted to call and ask why we weren't.
And both those parties are gone, by the way.
And they also said, well, my neighbors said it was okay, but their neighbors didn't say it was okay to us.
Right, so that was one of the things.
That's why we started this mess. And I think it's a mess, but that's my opinion.
I still like the complaint form, having somebody's name on there,
I
all
know.
right? And if there's someone who, for whatever reason, is concerned about not wanting to sign it, okay? I can tell you right now, I'm not bashful. Come see me. Because if I agree with the complaint, I'll sign it myself.
And most of them I would. This one fellow that I was talking to, unfortunately, the last time I'm just gonna say what he told me. The last time he went out there and complained, they took some kind of chemical and like that all over his front yard, and it killed the grass wherever the chemical was. Would you be interested in John going out there and doing the blatant one? So
Let me ask another question though, okay? So if somebody files a complaint,
yes,
okay? And John goes out there and he tries to enforce this thing,
Mhm.
right? So he says, well, who filed the complaint?
Mhm.
Now, I'm under understanding that unless this goes to a court or whatever, that his name, whoever filed it is not disclosed. Is it?
Shannon, no, I think it is.
It's my understanding that John says if you want to know who signed the complaint form, you have to do an open records request through me.
Okay,
That is public record.
okay,
So those people who want to know, really know, come to me for an
okay,
open record.
all right,
request.
then I was
It is
misled
public
somewhere,
record.
yeah, okay, yes, yes.
Good old open record, right, guys?
And like I say, we try to do it, but again, you know what, that was back a few months ago and or maybe 2 years ago, now we passed that.
Couple of years, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, we're past that complaint form. It worked very, very well, and it did end just the neighbor dispute. And obviously, I can direct John, once the board decides what those parameters are, to do it, and they'll do whatever.
and that's what he said too.
We're operating under what the board direction.
See, prior to 2017, we were proactive. In enforcing this, we had our own ordinance enforcer. We had a number of articles in the paper. We had one individual that didn't have indoor plumbing for years. And muskrats are living in his attic and what have you. And he got away with it for years. We finally tore the building down. But it took years at least.
Okay, so yes,
How about, everybody here has their own hot button when it comes to some of these ordinances.
yes,
What if we all make our own list, forward them over to Mike? He can compile them. Our next meeting will say, okay, these are priorities, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever they
Sure.
may be.
we can do it at the next committee,
I'd be all for as time permits, and if he's busy on
of course.
a lot of things, but as time permits, get in the car and drive around and look. That was when I first got elected, one of my things, and
Clean it up.
Dave Shortis, I used to go to him routinely and say, Dave, you can take a drive by here, go look at this. And
It's,
obviously, we don't have them anymore, but.
it's hard though.
Oh, it's tough.
And I'll let the people know it's hard because what you think is. For instance, this lady had a ping pong table in her front yard for years and she put a couple pots on it and things like that. And you know, when we approached her, at that time we had an ordinance enforcer and we approached her and she said, well, that to me is beautiful. And I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. Like, you know, for some people, like, they don't think it's ugly or whatever. I don't think we should go if it's ugly. I just think if it's not registered or if it's animals and that, things like that. Those are the big ones, you know? Okay, I like your plan. Let's do that. Let's write up anything we would like the ordinance enforcer to do, not to do, and give it to Mike. Mike can compile it. We can talk about it.
Obviously, John is a part-time.
Right. And we only, and
And in the spring, summer, you know, obviously it's the tall grass, the plants, you know, all of that stuff. You know, maybe we can consider and talk with the sheriff, maybe that would be a good idea to actually, some of these more serious.
mhm.
You know, the outline, you know, was to have the sheriff do that enforcement and, you know, versus like, trustee Dan mentioned, you know, putting a tag on there just to remind them, hey, your car's sitting here, it's got a flat tire, it's not registered. John does that stuff, but when you start getting into the more and more, you have 6 vehicles and junk and garbage and piles and
Hoarding.
it really, you know, it becomes cumbersome and then it's months by the time, you know, we try to write a 30-day and they'll talk, they'll come maybe do something, but not all, we'll give another 30 or nothing gets done. We end up issuing those citations. Then it's got to go through that procedure, so you know, it's not an overnight fix from any regard. So I just think it's something that if we want to get more into it, you know, we're going to need some more sheriff's department help in some of those investigations.
Those guys are going, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Yes.
I recall when we first negotiated contracts with Sheriff Beth, who obviously is now gone,
Mhm.
that was one of the big things on there. And he said, absolutely, we'll do code enforcement. And that was part of the reason I was behind having them, was that they would do the big police work, but also the little stuff. And, you know, Graham, maybe it's got away, but I like, whoever idea it was, having the new sheriff come into one of our meetings one day.
Yeah, Bills, yeah.
We can sit down and meet with them and tell them our concerns and maybe move this thing forward.
I 100% agree. I think, you know, now with our current contract, we have one of some overlapping that shifts for first and second shift. Through the summer, we have that extra patrol in the afternoon. But obviously, if you guys listen to anything called in Salem, you know, those cops are busy doing a lot of things. So my guess is that, you know, we want to do the small stuff, you know, the little probably gonna cost, you know, it's gonna cost money because I just listen and following reports. Sheriff's Department, the we're 3 didn't have it pretty much.
I understand that. Okay, so finished with that one. We're gonna table number 4 for today. It's not on there. I can I say this? I think that, I don't know how you guys are gonna handle this one, but I think that we should meet with Chad Cantwell, Mr. McTiernan, Steve Dunn, Mark now. Let's just,
I'll second that motion.
well, we can't make a motion. We don't have it on agendas,
But
but
I-
after speaking and Mr. McTiernan's been here twice. And I think we just need the board to meet with them. I want this to be done. I don't want them to not have business. I don't want them, you know, but
No, I agree. Sooner the better.
I'm going to say that I've been saying this for the last year and a half.
we did, but they did meet with the fire commission and I thought that was ample, but apparently.
They didn't get any, they were not satisfied.
I wasn't there, so I
Any
can't
answer to
say.
get out of that fire.
But and I don't want to badmouth them at any chance, but let's do it. Let's do it. And I want the whole board. Okay.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if we're gonna meet with any constituent that has a complaint about the village, what are we gonna set up as rules of engagement, and also the what subject matter can the board address, where if it's not us, it should be the fire commissions?
And there's such a darn fine line there, and I, because we never had a village, we never had a fire commission up until we became a village, and
With a conversation with Ted, trustee Kamick had asked, that's one of the things that he wants to do in the next few weeks is to get something to the board and to the fire commission to address the responsibilities of both. What is the village board responsibility when it comes to the fire department and those issues? And what is the fire commission task? Just to make it clear.
Why don't we have a meeting when the fire commission is here with us as well as the fire
That's exactly
department?
what I was saying. That was
Yeah,
something
so we could
I
iron.
had suggested that a while ago, but
Obviously, the attorneys.
Mr. Dunsky, he's on the fire commission back there and he'd like to speak.
yes,
Am I allowed to speak?
sure.
So we've seen the business owners a couple times at our meetings. We have proper procedure that is issued to the state that we have to go. When this fire condition was made, the village board took a lot of the responsibilities away from the actual fire commission and took them upon themselves. Those are written in your village ordinances. I forwarded a copy of the actual handbook to Mr. Hopkins. He's been reading over it. I was the one that requested a meeting for the village board, the fire commission, and anybody else that wants to come and hash it out. We all have to get on the same page. It's not fair for these guys. It's not fair for us. It's not fair for you guys.
I agree.
Nobody seems to know what's going on, who's in charge of what. We need to sit down, have a meeting, and figure out who is responsible for what, and adopt those ordinances. And again, there's a reason there's a handbook, but we're just not following it to the T like we should.
Okay,
So what I'm going to suggest then is why doesn't the village board sit down with the fire commission, planning and zoning, and now these are all separate, okay? Fire commission, planning and zoning, and just sit down and who runs what?
well, as you know, the planning and zoning, everything that they do, it comes to us. It's up to the village
Correct.
board.
Okay.
Fire commission is a whole new, pot of soup, but let's do it soon. So we could take care of this, because this has gone on too long.
I mean, I've been to the fire commission meetings and the whole shot and I throw my 2 cents in there and and I was told, the village board has nothing to say over the fire department or the fire commit, it all goes to the fire commission. And then they say, no, that's not what we do. So,
All
I
right,
think our biggest thing is, can we sit down with the fire commission and figure out who runs what?
yes,
By state statute.
yes.
That's not almost it.
But I don't want to hash that out with the property owners at the same time.
Right.
Pardon me?
Gotta be a public.
Yeah.
Correct, but I don't want to hash it out with the fine lines and everything of how we're, like Mr. Dunsky had said. And then, these people are willing to talk about their own issues unless you want to, but I think it'd be two separate issues.
So why don't we put an order to it? Put an order to it and do the commission and the boards first. And then based on the results of that meeting, then meet with the constituents, the different businesses.
Yeah, we could do
Because
that.
we may have more answers at that time, which we didn't have if we do it. the
And we
other way.
perhaps could even do it in the same evening. Yes, and then we're done.
Mike mentioned, and I talked with trustee Kamick a while back. He came up with a good idea. He'd like to see a liaison committee of the board, 2 or 3 board members and the business people. The business people could come directly to 1 or 2 or 3 board members when these things start gelling. And I agree, this has been going on way, way, way too long. And we just keep kind of kicking it around like, well, it's not our responsibility, it's theirs. And it's been my understanding up to this point that the fire commission oversees the fire department. We have no jurisdiction, so to speak, over the fire department and their rules and how they're operated. They're coming to the fire commission.
We fund it.
Right, we fund it, but we don't.
And the hiring and the firing,
Is
Yeah,
the
it's
fire
all done by the
commission.
fire commission. I can't walk in the fire
the
department
budget,
tomorrow and tell Chief LaCar, hey, I don't like that fireman. He did something on a call.
right.
I want to see him fired. I don't have that authority. And that's why
The most simplistic term that I have seen used at other locations is the fire commission is basically the HR department for the village as it pertains to the fire department, the hiring, the firing, the discipline.
Right, we can't do that.
All right.
That I know, but some of the other particulars, like Mr. Dunsky said, I don't know myself, mate.
Well, like I said, I would suggest all of you read over the fire commission handbook that is about pay and you'll see the line of authority. You'll see who has functional authority over the fire department versus hiring fire authority over the fire department. Like Mr. Hopkins said, the fire commission essentially is a hiring fire planning authority. That's where it stays in the book.
Okay,
And any community through our administrator, Mr. Murad, or
okay, we're good. Everybody agreed. All right, we'll get together for that. So what we do, Shannon, is we're gonna have to find a time when the commission and everybody on the board for sure can make it. All right, with that, moving into our regular board meeting. Thank you. Planning and zoning, discussion and possible action on the following items. Kristen Gurley of Alive Rescue, she's the owner, requesting a kennel license in the A2 General Agricultural District at parcel so mentioned on 83rd Street.
So moved.
Second.
It was Hopkins and Kulat beat you. Hopkins and Kulat, motion to approve. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number two, resolution of 2023.01-72, a resolution adopting the Village of Salem Lakes Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. We were asking that this be tabled.
Motion to table.
Second.
We don't need one, but we will take it. Hopkins in favor. Motion to table. We had a couple of blurbs in there that Mr. Hopkins found. We'd like to go. Pardon? All,
If you did a motion and.
that's true. All in favor. Any other questions on it first?
Aye.
Aye.
No questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Shannon. Motion carries. Public Works, discussion possible action on the following, the emergency repair of plow truck number 13 in the amount of $11,384.33.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Kulat and Hopkins. Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fire and Rescue Department, discussion and possible action on the approval of proposal from Johnson Controls to replace the simplex fire alarm panel in the amount of $9,819.58.
So moved.
Second.
Hopkins in favor. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk's Office, discussion and possible action on the following, approval of operator's license, mentioned here.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Kulat and Gant. We got Ronnie in there. Any questions on any of these, or everything is clear? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Selection of the president and trustee candidates. Normally we do this when we just thought we were having a meeting. All the people that are on the ballot have been in the past. We do it, our clerk announces it. And like, let's say you're on the ballot and you're able to come in and then pick a name and see where the names go for the ballot. But because of just the way everything's been going lately, we're going to do it here in public. We're going to have
A resident.
a resident pick. And this way, when are we picking the trustees first
I have, yes, we have 7 candidates.
for the
File
3?
paperwork for the trustees.
For-
Therefore, we're having a primary because there's 3 seats open and only 2 times the amount of seats open can be in the ballot. So there will be a primary.
If we would have had 6 trustees in, it wouldn't have been a primary. But now that there's 7, we have a primary. So You got somebody to pick?
I do.
All right. So the first on the ballot,
I have to.
Hey Shannon, could you move close, more in the view of the camera, please?
where is the camera? Over there?
Well, she's out of the view of the camera. Anywhere is there is fine.
Okay, here we go.
Hold it.
Okay, this is for trustee first on the ballot.
Yep, and this is just for the February primary. This is not for the April election.
Have it remote?
No, what we're gonna do, yep. Okay.
First on the ballot.
You gotta love me.
We do.
Okay, first is Mike Hulat.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate your support.
Your, no, I'm kidding.
You have two. Yep, welcome. Okay, well, it's not.
Sticky fingers on.
Position number 2 is Jared Young. December.
This one's a good
3 is Bill Barheit. Four is Ty Kamick. Five is Norm Casimiro. Number 6 is Kelly Sweeting. And that, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Number 7 is Dan Campion. Mary, I'm actually gonna keep you if you don't mind. We got one more drawing.
Oh,
So, tomorrow is the due date with the county to start getting the ballots ready. So I have to draw the names for the president, which will be for the April, election. We have 2 candidates for president. So we are gonna draw names for that.
ooh.
Thanks.
And once again, this is for the April election. So position number 1 is Diane Tessar. Position number 2 will be Rita Bucher.
We good?
Okay, yep, we're all good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Shannon, for that. Number 3. We're still under the clerks. Approval of resolution 2023.01-73. A resolution amending the plan defining village wards relating to parcel so mentioned. Does everyone?
motion approved.
I'll second.
Kulat and Faber, any questions on this?
So we're just moving that from 8 to 10, correct?
Yes,
Yep.
there are some other parcels that are in question that may come in the future, but we wanted to meet with the school boards. They're gonna, the principal and the administrators, we're gonna discuss it. There's 6 or 7 parcels, I believe, over there.
Is this typically by the resident who questions the ward they're in?
No, this is a unique situation where back in, this has actually been an ongoing problem since the 90s that I researched and found. So this particular parcel in question with this family, when I believe their children are in their 30s and they attended Riverview, and that's what they've always voted. But with this last census change, that's when the ward blocks changed based on population. It was caught, and they're in Trevor Wilmot, and according to the county, they were as well. But there was some back and forth flip-flopping in the 90s that we're correcting right now. So this doesn't change anything for the residents at all. They've been voting and paying taxes. It was just a
Right.
glitch in the paperwork.
Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, approval of minutes from the regular board meeting on December 12th. Was there anyone absent?
No, you all were here.
Okay.
I'm gonna abstain though, because I was only here for the beginning of it.
Oh, okay. Yes, he was.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we got a Faber and a Kulat motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
thank you. And one abstention from Mr. Hopkins. Motion carries. Approval of vouchers for December 13th through January 9th in the amount of $863,215.96 as reviewed and presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
Faber and Hopkins. Questions on the vouchers? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Future items, anybody? Well, we got the committee of the whole. We got a few things already on that.
I have a Southeastern Wisconsin Fox River Commission on the 20th of January.
Okay.
So that's coming up.
Well, I forgot to mention, it's probably not the right time, but I'm going to say it anyway. Our Dwayne Keller, he worked for us in for the polls and also on the library. And he passed away last week and
Unexpectedly.
he's going to be a great loss, great loss. He's been with us for quite a while. Good man, Dwayne Keller. You can read his obit. It's a church, but if you look his name up anyway, so is that in Antioch? Is that where it is?
Yes.
Okay, because it is at the church. But it was kind of different because it said intermittent was private, but yet it had open service.
The service is open, but they're going to have private, wherever they're going to.
Okay. All right. Okay, and somebody asked me and I said I wasn't sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Anything else for future agenda? Dan, anybody? All right, and we're now going to move into closed session to move into that with accordance of Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 parenthesis 1 parenthesis C for purposes of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any of the public employee of which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This closed session is relative to the village zoning administrator and fire department wages. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Hopkins, Kula. Ron,
Yes.
Dan, Dennis,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Bill.
Yes.
All right, we are now in closed session. Thank you for attending. Anyone out there? All right, with that, then I'm going to
Motion to,
consideration possible action of announcement relative to 19.85 parentheses 1C to the closed session.
And then we're on
Yeah.
recording.
Nothing to report. Number 4, consideration possible action announcement relative 19.85 parentheses 1C reference to the closed session. Nothing to report. Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hopkins and I'm gonna go with Gant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.